This is the video for activity 7. It's very similar to the other ones you've been doing for the last two activities. Here you are basically combining it. You will be looking at the point interval estimate. Well, the point and interval estimate. It's a point and interval estimate. And you will also test the hypothesis on the cost of living. So we will be using inflation data, basically the consumer price index, which is an indicator of the cost of living. So if it's going up, if it's above 100, it means the cost of living is going up. If it's below that, it means it's going down. Okay, your alpha is going to be 0.05. So basically this is very similar to activity 5, and the second part is similar to activity 6. So if you have any difficulties, you should take a look at those two activities and see how you did it. But this time you are no more using unemployment data, you are using the cost of living data. So the data is found here. You just need to copy the link. I've already opened it here, and you simply come here. Just make sure it loads. It generally takes a few seconds to load. Once it has loaded, you come to CPI, and once you go to CPI, you don't need to change anything or to load anything. You just need to click on download. It's going to download the data. Now I just want to let you know it's a pretty big file, so it takes a few seconds to download, and you should not double click on it. If you double click on the data, and you can open it in Excel, but some data sets will be missing. You will not have data for maybe 2024, and your analysis may be faulty. But who knows, maybe you have a supercomputer that is super big, you can just double click. So now let's launch and open, and well, basically my file is here. Let's see. Okay, this is the file. It has downloaded into my download folder. So I just need to go and import it. And you can always see the date of download. It's a CSV file. So I'll open a blank Excel workbook. And once I get in, I can import it as we've generally done. So I'll go to data. Under data, I'll go to get data. From file, I want to bring a CSV. Now I will go to my download folder and I'll take that one. Once I've done that, I'm going to take transform data because I want to get rid of certain things. The data set is pretty large. So the first thing I want to do is just to make sure my data is in the right format. Date is as a date, region is ABC, it's text, this is text. 1.2 means I'm dealing with decimal, that is perfect, so I have the right format, that's great. Now you can see my data goes from 1914, but I don't want 1914 because the instruction says for the last from 20. Let me just take a look at the instruction once again. It says 2023 and 2024. So you just have that period of time. So let's go back here. So in order for me to do that, I don't want to open this place and start clicking on everything. So the easiest way is to click here to select that row, go to add column, and then add a year column. We are going to click on date. We'll go to year and we'll click on year. This makes it very easy for you to now select the right date. So I'll come and click the drop down arrow, click on load more. And once it has done that, I will click on select all to uncheck everything. Scroll all the way down and choose this past 2 years. Okay. And it's going to filter everything, and that's the only period of time I'll have. Now the second thing I want to do, given that I want to do my analysis by provinces, if I click here, you will see that I don't only have provinces, I even have some cities and so on. For example, Quebec in the province of Quebec. You have Halifax in Nova Scotia, Montreal in Quebec. We don't want to do that. So I want to do my analysis just on the provinces. So I'll click on load more, and then I'll go and only check the things I want. So I'll select all to uncheck everything. Then I'll choose provinces, Alberta, BC. I'll also take Canada. Let's see. We have Manitoba, Nova Scotia, Ontario. We have PEI. We have Quebec. So we are only taking the provinces. We have Saskatchewan. Let's see, do we have anything else? No, not really. Anyway, as long as we have Quebec, Ontario, and BC, we are fine to go. So I'll do OK, and it's going to select those things for me. Now I will basically get rid of the year. I don't really need this again. So I'll click on that and just hit delete on my keyboard. If you don't want to do that, you can right click and hit remove. It's going to take that away, but everything will remain as it is. So once it has stopped doing that, by the way, if your screen doesn't look like mine, you just go to view and you can take column quality. So that is what puts that. It really doesn't matter. Now go to home. I'll click on home. Then I'll go to close and load. I'll click the drop down and I'll take close and load too. Then it's going to give me this dialog box and I'll just OK the default. I want it to be table in a new worksheet. I'll OK, and it has given me what I want in this new worksheet. Now I have my data. I can start playing with it. What I need to do is just to go to insert. I want to create a pivot table. I'll click the drop down, take from table and range, and OK. And now this is the first thing I'll do. Now just to let you know, if you click here, you no more see your pivot table. By the way, let me close the queries connection. So if you click here, you have your pivot, but if you click out of that, you really do not see that. So I'll click here. First thing I want to do is to add my slicers to make some selections. I'll click on pivot table analyze. I'll click on slicer, and I want a slicer by region and by product. Now I'll OK, and I'll put the region. I think I'll first put the product here. I'll increase the size depending on the size of your screen because we have lots of products. I'll go to slicer ribbon and I'll increase the slicers to something like that, and we can even expand. Then I'll put region here. What I'll do is I'll also increase it, and then I can just add a second, third, and fourth and do this adjustment. Then finally I want to add a timeline. So I'll click here for my pivot to be reactivated. I'll go to pivot table analyze, insert timeline. I'll check the date and I'll OK. And now I have a timeline. I'll put it here. Now I just want to change this, so I'll click this drop down and take years. And those are the years. I will not be manipulating the years, so I'll just leave it as it is. So actually I don't even need the timeline, so I can actually get rid of that. I'll just hit delete. I don't need that. I only need these two. And we can start playing with the things we need to do. Now remember, if you take a look at the instructions, you'll see what it's requiring of you, but we don't need that now. Let's just start playing with this. So I'll come here, click on CPI. I'll just drag it and drop it there. Yeah, you see it's giving me for everything, but I want to choose a particular product. So I want to compare how the cost of living for a given product has changed from one region to the next. That's really what I want to do. So what I'll do right here is that I'll just choose Quebec. So I'll click on Quebec, and then I'll hold my control key, command for those using Mac, then I'll take Ontario. If you want, you take BC, take any one you want. It's up to you. I'll just click on Ontario, I'll release the key, then I will come here. Let me just click here momentarily so that I can see all what I have. You can actually scroll down because you have lots of products. So let's say you want to take a look at education. I'll click on education, and that will enable me to compare the cost of education in these two provinces to see how much it has gone up. It's not just looking at what it costs you, it's looking at by how much it has increased. That's the idea. So I'll come back and click on this table to reactivate that. Now I don't want the sum of CPI, I want the average CPI. So I'll click on it and I'll take value field settings. I'll take average, go to number format, make sure it's number. I want 2 decimal places. I'll OK, and I'll OK, and I'll take region, and I'll put region where I have columns. Then I'll take date and put it where I have rows. Now, if yours doesn't split like this, it really doesn't matter because I'm going to uncheck all of them. I don't need them. I only need date, and that is it. Now, I want to get rid of the grand totals. So I'll go to design, the design ribbon. I'll go to grand totals. I'll take off rows and columns, and I have that one. So here it is. You can see how things have changed for the different places. Okay, you can even graphically take a look at it. So I'll click in there, go to pivot table analyze, click on pivot chart, and it's nice to leave the column if you want the line, but I think this is more intuitive to me. So I'll click OK, and I'll put it somewhere here so that it doesn't get into the way of my analysis. I'll, by the way, put this legend below. So I'll go to design, go to add chart elements, go to legend, and put it at the bottom, and voila. Okay. So the next thing I want to do is to start with my confidence interval. So I'll click there and I'll say point and confidence interval estimate. Okay, I'll hit enter. I'll go back to that cell and I'll double click so that it increases that space. And the first thing we want to do, if you look at the instructions, you generally want the average. After the average, you want the standard. Deviation, and you want the sample size. You want the standard error. Then you want the margin of error. No, you actually want the t, given that a sample size is less than 30 and we don't know the population standard deviation, so we want the t value or the t score. And now we can compute the margin of error. And finally, we can have the lower bound. and upper bound. Now the next thing we can also do now is for the hypo testing. So here you'll have your null and alternative hypothesis. And once you have your null and alternative hypothesis, you generally have your alpha. Your alpha has been given as 0.05. And once you have your alpha, you want the t-test. And you want the decision. Where you are going to be using an if function. Okay, so basically your if function will tell you if you will reject or you will fail to reject, and we basically did that in the other exercise. So hopefully you remember how to do it, and of course here you will put whatever value is here. So I'll say, for example, in that cell equal, I'll click where we have Ontario, and I'll come here. Well, hold on. Equal, I'll click here and hit enter. Then I'll come here. Equal Quebec, hit enter, and I'll make this bold. Make this bold. Actually, make everything there bold. And that is it. Here I'll just change the color. I'll make this color, let's say that, and I'll do the same here so that we see that it's two different things. So you can increase the size of this, given that you'll be having your decision rule here. So why is it significant? Because every time you change something, you can see if you take NB and Quebec, hold down Control, then you can see that it changes it. So you can adjust it so that you can see everything that's there. For example, your average will be equal the average function, and you can select everything here. You hit enter and you just drag it. It will do it for both of them, standard deviation and so on. So I want you to do it. You know already how to do it. I want you to do it. Take a look at the last two activities, see how we did it. Do it for any two provinces of your choice. I strongly encourage you to use Quebec and any other province. Okay, so there we go.